The Nashville Predators signed some RFAs ahead of training camp. We'll talk about those deals. Plus, rookie camp kicks off today. We'll share the big storylines from the young Preds on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Want to extend the warmest of Wednesday welcomes to our first-time listeners, our everydayers, and of course, a special shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders. Thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. We're your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Friends, it is happening. Hockey is back. Rookie camp kicks off today at Ford Ice Center Bellevue, which means Predators hockey is right around the corner. On today's show, we're going to talk about rookie camp. We're going to talk about some storylines and players that we're watching closely, but we also want to discuss the important RFA signings the Preds made this week. Before we dive into all that, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Emma, it is finally time. Hockey is back, as you know, at least for us on a daily basis. It's going to be back on TV very, very soon as well. Rookie camp kicking off today. We're going to dive in and talk about some players on the roster, some storylines to watch. But we do want to update everybody on recent breaking Predators news. On Monday, the Predators announced that they had signed Juuso Pärssinen and Marc Del Gaizo to one-year deals. Juuso Pärssinen signed a one-year $775,000 deal. Marc Del Gaizo signed a one-year two-way contract worth $775,000 at the NHL level. Emma, what are your thoughts on these deals and on Nashville getting these two players back on the roster?
I think they're both pretty good. I really like the Parssinen one. I think for him, you know, his qualifying offer as stipulated by the CBA, it was something like 813,000 something, but he likely, you know, I'm sure what the team offered was something similar to what they did for Del Gaizo, which was a two-way deal, which means that your salary changes based on whether you're playing in the NHL or the AHL. But signing at 1 year, one way, 775, I think that's smart on Juuso's part. I think that is, I'm sure he probably took less money to get that one-way deal. Obviously a one-way deal does not guarantee that you will be on the NHL roster, but it definitely helps your chances because a team does not want to be paying you $775,000 to play in the AHL when they could be paying you $100,000, you know,
right?
Only
a little bit of math difference.
Yeah, just a little bit. So I think it's smart for him. It's good. We had already, I think, kind of generally factored him in to this opening night roster for the Predators regardless. So I think it's a good move for him. Del Gaizo, again, two-way deal makes sense here. I don't see him starting the year on the Predators roster just because of, you know, kind of the logjam of talent they have there. Will he be one of the first guys called up in case of an injury? Absolutely. I mean, we saw it last year, and he's a really reliable two-way defenseman. He can join in off the rush. I mean, he is very well suited to the Andrew Brunette style of hockey. I'm really glad that they got both of those deals done. I think that they have both they both play an important role in this organization right now. Of course, elephant in the room is still Philip Tomasino, who has not yet signed a contract, but who is on the training camp roster.
Right.
He is one of 14 unsigned players currently on the training camp roster. Which, remember, players can be like non-roster invites. There are plenty of ways that guys can participate in training camp. They don't have to be under contract with the team. So, or guys on PTOs as well. So I think that, that's the one that everyone was a little bit like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Anybody hearing anything here? Yeah.
Andrew Burnett's comments at the end of the season about Phil Tomasino were not exactly, they didn't exactly give a vote of confidence that, he would be back. He was definitely dangled out there as, a name in a bunch of trade rumors this offseason. So clearly they still, obviously they have extended him a qualifying offer. We know that already, but the two sides haven't come to an agreement, so they can continue to work towards an agreement through the end of training camp. So unfortunately, they're just keeping us in suspense a little bit longer.
It would be really nice, I'm sure, for all parties involved to wrap this up, but I don't know that this is one that's going to get done right away. Keeping in mind that at the time of this recording, it's not done, and just because of the way the world works, they're probably going to sign this the minute they'll announce it the minute we're done recording.
Probably.
But I'm with you. I really am very excited that Parssinen is done. I felt like that was, in the words of Vivian Ward from Pretty Woman, a sure thing. Marc Del Gaizo, this is locked on Marc Del Gaizo. Like, we're just going to be real with you. Love his game. Love what he brings to the game. And I agree with you. This is the guy, this is the type of player you want as your next man up. Marc Del Gaizo is a great option if that's your next man up. I am interested to see what happens with Parssinen. We talked about this. He started out on the top line at training camp last year. You're not going to see Juuso Pärssinen starting out on the top line at training camp this year, y'all. Probably not going to see him starting out on the second line. Where I do want to see maybe if he lands is he going to be, and I guess this is a great question for you, but when I look at Juuso Pärssinen, I look at his game. I know one of the things that they kind of struggled with him was consistency, but if he can consistently kind of play the way they want him to play, he feels like, to me, somebody who has the physicality, if he does it consistently, to almost be a replacement, and I use air quotes for that, for like a Kiefer Sherwood. And I use air quotes for that because Kiefer Sherwood had a very unique skill set. And Juuso Pärssinen, I think, can be that strong physical presence. I don't know speed-wise if he is as fast as Kiefer Sherwood was, but I do think he's got a great offensive upside. So as I'm looking at this roster and thinking, if they stick with the same lines, there's that hole. Juuso Pärssinen is somebody that I think could be really, really effective if they kept Cole Smith and Michael McCarron together, and you throw in big old Juuso Pärssinen as well. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as, first day of free agency, as soon as Kiefer Sherwood signed with Vancouver, I think one of my first thoughts was, well, spot just opened up for Juuso Pärssinen on that line, because he seems, like you said, kind of tailor-made for it. Now, as we say all the time, don't play the game on paper. So he may be tailor-made for it on paper, and it may not work out. He did, he came back for that last playoff game against Vancouver last season, and came in for the injured Cole Smith, I believe it was, in that final game. And so I think a lot of people were expecting a 1-for-1 replacement, like, oh, just pop him in on that fourth line where Cole Smith was, and there you go. And people were, it seemed like fans were almost just beside themselves that Parssinen, when he came back in, got moved up to the second line, and then Jason Zucker got moved down to the fourth line. Now, I think in that particular scenario, with it being that, Parssinen's just been called up, he hasn't been with this team for months at this point. Remember how heavily Andrew Brunette relies on that fourth line to drive the
Absolutely.
offense. That fourth line is not a traditional fourth line. And so they have a huge responsibility. They have a huge role. That is a lot to thrust someone into who hasn't played an NHL game in, however many months.
I think January 20th was his last game, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So that's why in that particular scenario, in a playoff situation, a win or go home situation, that's when it made sense. Like, okay, maybe let's not put this kid in position to fail, maybe. And then you take a guy like Jason Zucker, who can easily fill that role as well on the fourth line, put Parssinen up on the second line with Colton Sissons. There you go. Colton Sissons is the ultimate security blanket, no matter who you put him with. So
absolutely,
it just made sense. And so I think people after that, maybe people were wondering, oh, or is Parssinen going to be in the top 6 now? I mean, realistically, no. I think in that particular scenario, it made sense for him to be, but he's not the kind of player that I think you want having top 6 minutes, at least not right away. I do think he has the physicality, he has the size, and he has the scoring touch to do very well on that line with Smith and McCarron. So that'll be an interesting one to watch at training camp, because I am sure that he'll be getting reps with those guys.
Yeah. And Kiefer Sherwood is maybe, stat sheet wise, not the guy that jumps out at you, but his play in that line that was so important is something that the Predators are going to have to be pretty intentional about compensating for. So it's going to be something to watch. Of course, players are going to be showing their stuff starting again today. Rookie camp coming up. We're going to talk about a couple of the players we're going to see at rookie camp who we want to get a closer look at. We're going to tell you how close we think they may be to getting a shot with Nashville. If you are looking to make some great fall memories, taking in live sports or concerts or theater or a comedy show, you have absolutely got to check out Game Time. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to get tickets for a great night out on the Nashville town. Game Time now has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Whether you want to take in a Titans game or some college football, we see you, Vanderbilt Commodores, by the way, or you want to check out one of these Predators preseason games, or maybe you want to listen to Steve Martin at Opry or Post Malone at Bridgestone, you can find seats and prices you love at Game Time. And if you're a last minute planner like me, you can find those great last minute deals on Game Time. They also have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the ticket price difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Emma, rookie camp kicking off today for the Nashville Predators. Later on this week, we're going to hear from some of the players at camp, and Emma and I will share our initial thoughts from some of these practices ahead of the rookie showcase games that's going to be hosted right here in Nashville against Florida, Tampa Bay, and Carolina's rookies as well. So a lot of hockey action coming up. There are some players, though, Emma, when this roster came out, that I am especially excited to get my eyes on. And the one that jumped out for me is Magnus Chrona. Not just because he's a Swede, but a benefit. But Magnus Chrona, of course, is the goaltender that the Predators got back in the trade with San Jose that sent Askarov there, and Magnus Chrona, who we got back. 2018 fifth round pick for Tampa Bay. Ended up traded to San Jose, 24 years old, 6'6", 216 pounds. That is a lot of Sweden net. my friends. Really interesting player. I wanted to give a shout out to JD Young, who hosts the Locked On San Jose Sharks podcast, and we've had him on here to talk through the Skarov deal. And he interviewed Magnus Chrona earlier in the season, and I sat down and watched that. This guy, really interesting. Played all 4 years at the University of Denver, where he won a championship. And coming in to rookie camp now at 24 years old, played 9 NHL games last season, played 31 AHL games last season, also played some ECHL games last season. So he has been running the gambit. So for me, one of the things that I want to see from Magnus Chrona, and it is early, and I don't think we're going to get a definitive answer in rookie camp by any stretch, but I'm excited to watch him and see, like, is this somebody who could develop into a future in net for the Nashville Predators? That's what I can't wait to see from Magnus Chrona.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anyone hoping for a 1-for-1 replacement for Yaroslav Askarov is going to be pretty disappointed if you go into it with that mindset. He does not have the same just raw skill and ability. That's okay. His numbers don't really jump off the page from his career, but he's been playing his career with a not very good team in front of him. Whether that's at NHL, AHL, ECHL, like, really
Not great.
He hasn't been dealt the kindest hand in that regard. So I think that now, I'm not using that to give him an entirely free pass, but I think that I am interested to actually watch him play. Because up to this point, all we've really done is kind of look at his stats, and you can really only get so much from that. So excited to see that. Excited to see, Matthew Murray as well, the free agent signing. Those two, it sounds like, will probably be platooning it in net for Milwaukee this year. So I think it'll be very different from what we've seen the last couple of years. But I think it'll be good.
I love in the interview that he did with JD Young, JD asked him to describe his game, describe your game in net. And these are quotes. He said, safe and sound. And he also said, pretty calm. And I thought, nothing about that screams, I need more Tums. So this is going to be a very different goaltender. Like you said, there's really no 1-for-1 with Yaroslav Askarov. Like the way this ended or not, he's just an extremely talented player. A lot of potential, a unique style of game that goes with his unique personality. So it's not going to be like we're seeing Askarov in net, but I am interested to see Crona in net. I'm interested to see how does he do against some players who did well in Milwaukee last year. Joachim Kimmel. I'd like to see him against him. Zachary L'Heureux. How's he going to do with them? And if he sticks around for training camp, how is Crona going to look in net in practices, taking shots from Philip Forsberg or Steven Stamkos? So this is our first chance to really get a look at him. And I'm awfully excited, just to kind of talk with him, get to know him a little bit, but also just kind of get our first look. Like you said, the stats aren't great. Stats tell the truth except when they're lying. We're going to find out how much his stats are telling the truth or lying starting at rookie camp. So for me, that's somebody I'm really excited to meet and see. Who is somebody on this roster, Emma, that you are looking forward to seeing at rookie camp?
I personally am so excited about Andrew Gibson.
Yes.
I got so fired up about this kid at development camp. He had just been traded to Nashville at that point from Detroit. Nashville tried to trade up to get him last year and they couldn't, so they ended up trading for him. And he was just so impressive, really off the ice as well, but especially on the ice, playing at dev camp, in the practices and scrimmages. It was clear to me, like, okay, I see why they wanted to trade up to get this guy, because he's got I mean, of course he's young. He's 19, so he's still got time. He's going to go back to juniors again this year. Unless he were to make the NHL roster, which I don't think is going to happen.
Maybe not this. This may not be his year. No fault of
but
his.
Yeah. Well, seeing him alongside Tanner Molendyk on defense, I mean,
come on.
Both of those guys, obviously both still have a year left before they can play at the AHL level, but gonna be, ideally you get to see these guys play alongside each other at rookie camp and in the rookie tournament. But I was so impressed by Andrew Gibson. He was fast, he was physical, he was very disciplined, and just the way that he played, kind of looked like a man among boys out there with the other rookies.
Yes.
So I got very excited, even more excited about him after seeing him at Dev Camp. So I'm excited to see some more of him.
Absolutely agree. And I love what you said about he looked like a man among boys. There was something about the way that Andrew Gibson played at Dev Camp that separated him. And it wasn't one glaring thing like this particular skill set is so outrageously better than others. It was that every little element of his game was elevated. Yeah. And it really was a player who stood out dramatically. He played
like a pro. Like he looked like a pro.
He absolutely looked like somebody that you would see at training camp and say, oh, I really wonder if he's going to make the roster, because he really looked that good. It's going to be great. Like you said, oh gosh, he and Tanner Molendyk. I mean,
it's going to be fun.
That's a defensive pair for the future, y'all. Like you're going to want to pay money to see those two together. But I agree with you. Andrew Gibson, this is a guy, a lot of talent. And this will be a lot of people's first look at him if you didn't get a chance to see him at Dev Camp. So he is worth watching for me. And I know that this is a pretty obvious pick. So let me explain my logic behind this, but I am excited to see Zachary L'Heureux. And I know that's pretty obvious. Everybody loves Zachary L'Heureux. He's Happy. That's his nickname, Happy. 21 years old, absolutely phenomenal first year in the AHL last year. Like what he was able to do in the AHL, especially in the postseason for the Milwaukee Admirals, was incredible. He ended up let's see if I can find the right. He ended up 5th in points in the postseason out of the entire AHL, all the postseason players. He was 5th in points, and he was behind 4 players that played 18 or 20 games. He had played 15 games. He was 2nd in points in goals in the regular season behind Igor, and he tied Ethan Frank from the Hershey Bears for goals scored in the postseason with 10. Even though he played 3 less games than Ethan Frank. They were tied for first in goals scored in the postseason. So this is a guy who really was peaking at the right time for Milwaukee. And I'm very curious to see what the offseason does. Does he pick up where he left off? What did he work on this offseason in his game? Can he elevate it again? Zachary L'Heureux is one I really am excited to keep my eye on. I also really like this kid. I don't like some of the sass on the ice. I know that's a thing with Zachary L'Heureux, and like the mom in me is like, I need you to stay on the right side of the line there, buddy, because he did have like 197 penalty minutes in the regular season. So maybe a fewer of those.
But if you look at the rookie camp roster, on the column that has the penalty minutes, the only one of them has 3 digits, and you're like, who is that? It's like, oh,
Zachary L'Heureux. That's Zachary L'Heureux. But I'm telling you, like, you just whittle away. One of my kids was born fully himself. That's the best way I know how to describe one of my children. Born fully himself. And my job as a parent was to just soften the edges. And that's kind of what I think probably Carl Taylor has to do with Zachary L'Heureux. Just smooth out some of the edges there. Great guy off the ice. Great guy to talk to. But I'm excited to see, like, where is his game now?
Yeah. It'll be, I too am very anxious to see, if he picks up where he left off, because boy, did he finish on a hot streak there.
Oh, he was so fun to watch. So fun to watch.
To the point where a lot of people were talking about, oh, is he is he gonna, get a spot on the roster, the Predators roster this year?
Right.
It's like out of camp, don't think so, but could be a late season call up depending on how he does. Who knows?
He is my most 1-for-1 swap out for Kiefer Sherwood, except he doesn't have quite the experience. But when you look at somebody whose game I think gives you the chafing that Kiefer Sherwood's did, both on the ice and out of the mouth, you're looking at Zachary
Well, it's
L'Heureux.
interesting. It's interesting because Kiefer Sherwood, his whole game until he got to the NHL, he was a goal scorer. That's what he did.
Yeah.
And then he got to the NHL and it just didn't work out. And for a lot of players, that happens a lot. And guys just kind of crash and burn and they fizzle out. He just reinvented his entire game. And so I think that, if L'Heureux can continue to be a goal scorer at the NHL level and he has that edge, that fire, that competitiveness, then it's going to be good.
It's going to be fun to watch. Coming up, Emma and I are going to share a couple more under the radar players we're going to watch extra closely at rookie camp. And we're also going to share with you the schedule if you want to come and check out the action at rookie camp. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. We are driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, Emma, rookie camp kicking off today. That means you and I are going to be bringing some updates on our next show. And of course, be sure you're following the podcast on social media. We'll be keeping you updated on everything there. Just want to throw out, and I'm going to run through this super quick. This is the roster for camp, and we're just going to zip through it real quick. Joachim Kamel, Fedor Svechkov, of course, from Milwaukee. Miguel Marquez, draftee this year. Kalen Lind. And his 5 cheeseburgers a day he eats trying to gain weight will be there. Reed Schaefer, the big red dog, will be there. Jordan Frasca, who came to Nashville via the Cody Glass trade. Joey Willis, Alexander Campbell, Zach L'Heureux, Kevin Wall, Navrin Mutter, Easton Armstrong. He is an invitee who, by the way, plays for the Saskatoon Blades with Tanner Molendyke. Ozzy Weisblatt is going to be there, y'all. He came from San Jose officially in the Igor Afanasyev trade, but he had played for Milwaukee before that. And Hiroki Gosick, who was a 3rd-round pick this year, Austin Roast, is going to be here. Jeremy Hansel, who we got with the Yakov Trenin trade, defenseman, going to be here. Chad Nychek, Tanner Molendyke, Jack Mateer, Andrew Gibson, Dylan McKinnon, Luke Prokop, Ryan Ufko, goalies Ethan Hayter, Magnus Chrona, and Jakub Malota, who was the 4th-round pick, actually picked this year in the draft at the exact same spot that UC Saros was picked. So a little bit of trivia. Some players who we aren't going to be seeing at rookie camp. Not going to see Igor Surin, Teddy Stiga, Viggo Gustafsson, Victor Noringer, those guys from this year's draft. The NCAA players are off at school doing schooling things. Matthew Wood, Aiden Fink at Penn State. Go Nittany Lions. Do you have any other under the radar players you're going to keep an eye on, Emma?
I mean, of the names that are on this roster, I'm really excited about. I don't know if he's totally under the radar because we did see him for a little bit in Milwaukee last year, but I'm excited to watch Ryan Ufko. I did get a chance to actually see him play at UMass Amherst last year, in his final season there. Unfortunately, I will not divulge the result of the game because it was not good. But it was it was good to get to see him there and then just kind of see, he's the only guy that I've really gotten a chance to watch in college and then see his transition to Milwaukee. When he finished school and how it looked like a pretty smooth transition, and he was able to contribute in the Calder Cup playoff run. But he's a guy that I'm excited to see kind of in his first full pro season, just with the way that he looked last year. And of course, I'm excited to see Ozzy Weisblatt. We haven't gotten to see him because he came to Milwaukee kind of on loan from San Jose last year. And so he's never been to a Predators training camp. And so we haven't gotten to talk to him yet. And clearly, he's a guy that really intrigues me because he's a guy that clearly the Predators liked what they saw enough that they were willing to, pull the trigger on that trade for Igor Afanasyev, which didn't end up benefiting San Jose all that much. But I think that, he's a guy that if you kind of look, former first round pick, he unfortunately, just based on the timeline, the pandemic really hurt him and his development. And I just think he's kind of been dealt a bad hand during his development. And I'm hoping that maybe, we'll start to see him get on track and see, why he was a first round pick.
Yeah. San Jose, huge on him. JD Young, again, Locked On Sharks, absolutely loves Ozzy Weisblatt's game. And like you said, the Predators have been watching him for a while too. So I'm with you. I'm very excited to see him. And Ryan Ufko, you totally stole mine. I love this kid. I really love this kid. Here's my thing, Emma, and I'm just wondering about this. So you look at the defensemen that Nashville has in the system, and one of the things that Barry Trotz mentioned, especially after the Vancouver series, was we need to get bigger on the blue line. Now, as one of our Locked On Predators insiders pointed out, we do remember the Ben Harper kerfuffle. So size isn't everything, but Ryan Ufko is a smaller size defenseman. He is listed at 6 feet tall. Is he 6 feet tall?
I don't know. I still have trouble believing Dante Fabro's listed at 6 feet tall sometimes. So, I mean,
sometimes I look at, and I hope this isn't inappropriate for me to say, but this is what I think of when I look at some of the listings for size. I flash back to the movie Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. Do you remember that movie? And he's in the courtroom and he is questioning the wife who's trying to get divorced, and her driver's license says she's like 115 pounds, and his reply was "in your bra." And I'm like, that's like, sometimes when I look at these heights or weights, I'm like, in your bra. Like, come on,
okay.
y'all. Come on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that to their face, but I think Ryan Ufko, size aside, whatever his height is, this is a really good skill set. He's got a very good skill set and is somebody that I'm excited to see as well. So a lot of new faces. Some we're more familiar with. It'll be great to see after a season in Milwaukee and in a really long season and postseason in Milwaukee too. Do want to let you know, rookie showcase games are going to be streamed on NashvillePredators.com. You can also check out the action at Ford Ice Center in Bellevue. Friday, Nashville rookies play Florida rookies at 2 p.m. Saturday, Preds play Tampa Bay rookies at 5 p.m. And Monday, Nashville plays Hurricane rookies at 1 p.m. Central Time. So that's just, and you can find all that information online too, but just know that you can go and check out the games live and see these guys as well. We will, of course, be back to share our observations from rookie camp, and we'll probably have some quotes, some comments and thoughts from the players as well on Friday's episode. Before we sign off for today, though, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me at Emma_Lingen on social media. You can also find me at Forward Ice Center Bellevue quite a bit over the next couple weeks. And you can find my work online at the Hockey News.
I've actually thought about how expensive would a hotel room in Bellevue be, because I'm so far north of the city, but bless, it's a great facility. So I will drive there. You can find me at Forward Ice Center Bellevue. You can find me online at AnnK_Mama on Ice. And you can find my work at Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Emma and I are going to be back on Friday with updates from rookie camp. We will see you then.